that they can. Oh, Mika, woo, thank you. So yeah, this was just a way for us to see what not to do. By the way, if you're ever looking on the internet and Googling something, if you need to do something you've never done before, most people Google how to do that thing. You can have so much fun if you Google how not to do that thing and wrong ways to do that thing. It's much more fun than Googling how to. Okay, so yes. Pause our clicker today because our clicker's not working. Oh no. So what are we going to learn today? So each point comes with a click. All right, so we are going to be covering, your learning objectives are you will be able to describe what a buyer or seller presentation is. You probably can already describe that, but we're just going to go over it really briefly. You're going to understand the purpose of a presentation. Why are we doing this? Why are we spending this time, this next hour talking about this? Why is it important? You're going to have a good grip on what the presentation does for your business. What is the value to your business to do this? You're going to understand what to include in a presentation and the steps to create one. And then before we leave tonight, you're actually going to have some time to create an outline for your own buyer or seller presentation so you can get started immediately. We didn't want you to leave with nothing to go home and work on. So we want you to leave this with a blueprint for how to get started. All right.
So we'll start with, what are buyer and listing presentations? So they're basically a blueprint or an outline to help educate your potential seller on the benefits of working with you and what that process looks like. It's the same thing for the buyer, although it's geared towards the buyer. Yep. Next slide, please. So the purpose of a presentation, it helps potential clients learn your process and procedures, right? It allows potential clients to know that you have a plan because you're the professional, ultimately. It sets expectations. You want to let them know your hours of business. You want to let them know what's going on in the market. It shows your value as a realtor. It allows you to overcome objections and interview your lead and learn their why, because all business isn't good business. So just like they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them to see if it's someone that will make a good fit for you. And we're there to give the agency, ask for the business. Is there any reason why you wouldn't work with me? And let them speak and see what they say.
Is that better? That's better. Okay, can y'all see it? Okay. All right, so what's the purpose of this? Why are we doing this? Oh no, that's what Mika just covered. I'm sorry, I was fixing lights. All right. Okay, so what value does this bring to your business? First of all, let me ask, how many of you guys already have a listing and or buyer presentation that you use? Do you have one already? Okay. Yeah, I see you back there kind of going, eh. Yours is kind of in. Okay. All right. So what made you create it? What made you decide that this is something I need to do?
Initially, the professional. And I'm gonna just get back to it. And if you learn your presentation, then you are the professional.
Yes.
In steer the conversation.
Absolutely. It definitely comes across as more professional. Now, there's right ways and wrong ways to do it, which is one of the reasons we're here, because we just saw an example of someone who did not have her presentation down very well. She did a presentation, but it was not done well. Why else? Why else did you guys kind of sort of raise your hand and decide you needed something like that?
Yeah, when I first started out, I wanted something like to give value. I felt like it added value to my clients and customers, and it was a place to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a place to start from. Yeah, have y'all been to on listing and buyer appointments and you're like nervous? No, you're not nervous.
I've never been to one. I'm brand new.
Who here is under 3 months in real estate? Raise your hand. Okay. 3 to 6 months, yeah. 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, and then over a year. Okay, all right, so we've got a lot of newbies in here. But yeah, when you first start out, you want to look professional and all of that, but you also, who in here, when they get nervous, loses their train of thought and doesn't remember what you were gonna say? So yeah, this is gonna bring value to your business. So what are some of the things you can look forward to? Consistency in processes and communication. When you get nervous, you might forget something. If you have a presentation that you do the same way every single time for every single client, you're gonna get that consistency in your processes and in what you're saying. Now that leads into my next one, CYA. What's that stand for? Cover yourself. Mika said, cover your assets. This is something you can refer back to. You want to leave your client with the things that you said, the important things, because it's going to come up again. Our transaction coordinator, Rika, who takes over our files from contract to close, she knows that we say the same thing every single time. She knows what I say. She knows what Mika said. And so Mika, we get them confused all the time. She knows what Mika says, right? So she can tell a client, if a client says, no one told me that, she can say, yes, I know Stacey covers that in her buyer appointment. So this is going to give you that consistency that you need to help you CYA, okay? Insight into your client. This is where client-centered interaction is key. This is your first chance to make sure that they feel that you are putting them first and that their experience with you is going to be centered on them, not so much on you. How many of y'all know someone who talks about themselves all the time? How does it feel when you see their name pop up on the screen of your phone? The whole energy in the room just now was kind of like, right? Yeah, you don't want your client after your buyer appointment to have that feeling next time you call them, right? Like, oh my, she's gonna talk all about herself, right? You need to have insight into your client. This is your chance to interview them, right? It also sets you apart and brands you. This establishes you as the resource. I don't know about y'all, but that nurse in that video, she did not make me think she's the resource I need to be going to, right? I mean, she was looking at her notes on sticky notes, right? What kind of value is she giving me? I wouldn't trust her. Presentations also help you have better time management because, again, you're going over the same thing every time, keeps you on track. You can always refer back to this right here if your client starts getting off track. You can say, hey, I really want to make sure we get over this before our time runs out. So it keeps you on your time management skills, okay? Smoother transactions. So this comes down again to what I mentioned with Rika earlier, our transaction coordinator. This is your chance to make sure you cover everything that you want to cover, that you want your clients to know about what you're about to go through. If they know some of these things up front, now are they going to remember every single thing you say? No, so we do have to repeat things a lot for our clients throughout the process. That's just part of our job. You know, that you don't like every single thing in a job. Well, that's one thing we sometimes get annoyed at, right? You have to repeat things, but this is going to help you get a lot of that information out at the beginning so that you aren't repeating as many things and the client knows what to expect, smoother transaction, okay? And then of course it establishes trust. If I come to you for a professional meeting and all of my notes are on sticky notes, not establishing trust with my client. If I come to you and it's time for our listening appointment and I have a well-branded, well thought out presentation that I'm presenting to you, how much more are you going to trust me that I know what I'm talking about and that I'm prepared? And establishing trust with your clients is really important up front. Can anybody think of why it's important to establish trust with a client, especially a buyer? What are some things that might come up that if you haven't developed trust would be harder to face? Okay, dealing with money. We do deal with money in the transaction at different points. What else?
They're gonna have other opportunities with other agents. So if they trust you, you know, it's gonna first make it easier, but you don't have to worry about, you know, that as well as family and friends putting things in your head.
Yep, you're establishing yourself as the resource, so family and friends are great, but you're the one to go to. Yes? And y'all can answer too.
Yeah.
What are some things you might face in a transaction later?
The home inspection.
Home inspection. Okay. Paul, what's the longest home inspection report you've had?
I've ever written, 103 pages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
103 pages. You're a buyer client, first time buyer client sees that and freaks out. You want to have that trust built between you and your client that you can go to them and say, this is okay. I'm going to help you through this. And they instantly trust that you're right. That you're going to help them through that. There's a lot more things that come up. What if you have to tell your client that buyer, we've seen 20 homes, they all matched what you wanted and you have not chosen one of them. Something is wrong. Okay.
Or when a buyer has put in thousands of offers. When I say thousands, I mean 7. And they say, yeah, it feels like thousands, especially when you have to write 16, 17 pages.
Yep.
And they say, Mika, I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. And you kind of got to remind them too that, like Stacy tells me, Mika, remind them they're not the only one losing. There can only be one offer chosen. You got to kind of stick this thing out, you know, and you got to be able to motivate them through the process, but that comes along with trust.
Mhm. Yes, trust goes a really long way. Okay. All right, so hopefully you are excited about all that value that you're gonna get once you master these, right? So what does it look like? How many of you have been on a buyer appointment? Was it your own or someone else's? Okay, how many have been on the listing appointment? Okay, was it your own? Guys, you can go to other people's listing and buyer appointments, just ask. You can come with me, you can come with Mika. We would love to have you come along and just see as many of them as you can. We can't do them all right now, but we're gonna give you as much value as we can, but that's a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
So you will see enough of them that you start to figure out what to include, but we're gonna go over this. You're gonna have a printed or a digital presentation of some type. That is the best way to do it. A lot of people are visual learners. A lot of people have ADHD. They need to be kept on task. Visually, that's a good way to do it. You can include preferred lenders. And maybe there's a sponsorship opportunity. And I want Mika to talk about this idea because she's really latched onto this and has been developing some great relationships with different people. So tell them about that.
Yeah, so as far as sponsorships, I would suggest you reach out to people in the community, go to their events, support other businesses, because businesses want to be connected to businesses. And I mean, I go to a plastic surgeon that helps me with my open houses. She lets me raffle free facials. I reached out to Paul, you know, this is my first time in the education department within any avenue really. So I've just been reaching out to people in the community just to link together and find out how I can bring value to their business and they bring value to my business. And not only that, a lot of times they cover costs. So you want to make sure you're out in the community, talking to people. Like I had a showing the other day and there were some people renovating the house next door. I'll talk to them. That's what I said. They happen to be contractors. They do big things in the community. I gave them the card. That's how you meet investors. That's how you meet people doing business and you connect. So you really want to try to get out in the community, meet new businesses, go into small businesses, small local businesses and say, hey, can we discuss a sponsorship? Or, you know, and they'll tell you yes or no, and some people can and some people can. So the people that can connect with them and don't take it personal, still support those other people.
Right, because one day they may can. And it, for this, yeah, they can. That's probably not grammatically correct.
wasn't gonna say anything.
In this instance in particular, that book that I showed you, that is professionally printed. How many of y'all are going, well, I'm just starting out, you know, how am I going to get all those professionally printed? a lender wants you to recommend them to your clients, right? A lender may cover some of those printing costs if you put their logo on this presentation. So that's really important. Now, you do have to be careful because as agents, we can't be biased. We have to do, have you heard the rule of suggesting at least 3? You know, you still have to make sure you're putting more than 1 in there. But definitely look into that because people will help you cover this cost. Just because you're new doesn't mean you can't have something that looks great, okay? You just got to put a little work into finding a partner. All right. So lenders will also give you printed materials for your buyer presentation. Cornerstone Lending, are y'all familiar with them? They actually have folders they'll make up for you that are full of value. And they have flyers about VA loans in them. They have flyers about what to not do once you're under contract, because you know, buyers like to get excited about their new house they're buying and they want to go open up a new account at Rooms to Go and spend $30,000 on furniture. Guess what? They shouldn't do that. So these packets that lenders can give you have a lot of value for your presentation, and it makes you look even more professional, okay? A vendor list. Who is great for them when you're talking? This is a listing presentation thing for sure. Who does your painting? Who does your plumbing? Who can do drywall? Who can do all the things that a seller might need? For buyers, they may not need it right that minute, but they're going to need it later. You're providing value. You're starting to show them that even after they close on that house they're buying, you can provide value by providing them these vendor lists. So think about what you need to do to provide value. We always talk about at Keller Williams, you know, coming from contribution. Have y'all heard that? How can you contribute to them in this listing or buyer presentation? All right, so what else? What else have y'all heard of that, or what do you think you might want to include in yours? Cool ideas you haven't implemented yet, maybe, but you've thought about it? Or maybe you have? What else?
CMA.
Okay, CMA for listing presentations. That might be something that you choose to do for the client. What else?
I usually put the buying steps for them in a
Okay,
package, so they know the steps, the different steps. I usually do that, and that's helpful to them.
yes, the steps of the process. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. I'm glad you said that.
Mika had said earlier, which I thought was a good idea, I just don't know what it looked like, but maybe you're gonna explain it later.
Mhm.
But educating about the market, like later if you're doing so, what does that mean? Like, how would that look in the presentation?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that.
Yep.
Timelines, like how much time it takes for certain steps.
Timelines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a checklist in mind on how to get prepared for photos, like what to take down and what to do.
Yes, how to get prepared for photos. So see, we've got basics up there, but these are all things that you can do to set yourself apart. These are great ideas. Great ideas.
One of the things that we put together and we will provide to you guys at no cost is how to get your sellers to prepare their home for the home inspection as well.
See, and this is what we mean by talking to people in business, because they might have something to offer, because honestly, everyone on the planet has something to offer. We just have to communicate with that person and get to know people in order to find out what it is. You never know.
Yep.
So a little bit, something that I'm gonna say is when I started real estate, I didn't even know these existed. Buyer listing presentations. I was like, what? I didn't even think about it. You know, I was going to classes and I had a notebook this thick of things to do. And I'm like, what do I do with all this stuff? You see what I mean? So I think it's really good that the Market Center gives us value, but knowing what to do with those tools and resources, right? So what topics should I cover? The first topic you should cover is working with real estate agents, because that's the first substantial contact.
So do y'all know what we're talking about when we say that for the really newbie? Yes.
You can add it in your presentation. So we go over it every time. And it makes you look professional, because who bought a home? Who bought a home recently? Did your agent go over that with you?
She's going.
No.
She's like scared to say it, but you know.
Mine did. I never saw it. I didn't even know what it was until I did real estate school. I didn't know. And so those things, people, they bought homes before, but they still never seen it.
Yeah, I've actually had several buyer appointments recently. In fact, I had one the other night on Zoom. It was a couple that I used to know at my church there in South Korea. They're moving back here. So we were on Zoom and I'm like, I have to go over this first with you guys. And she had already told me that their last experience buying in Fayetteville was horrible. And some of the things that had gone on. And she said, I wish we had had you, because this is the first time I've ever seen anything like this. So people aren't doing it, guys. We at Keller Williams, we're holding ourselves to a higher standard. And that's what's setting us apart.
Mhm. And some people will blow you off, like, okay, yeah. But then when it comes to sign it, they don't want to sign it. And they don't have to, but it is very important that you as the agent go over it and you know what it's saying. So you also want to cover why you.
Oh, I have a question for everybody. One,
Okay.
before we move away from working with real estate agents. Who remembers from school when you're supposed to go over it? First substantial contact, what does that mean?
Like utility, I got approved for $300,000, or, you know, you giving them important information that they shouldn't be disclosing to other people.
Right, really? If they start going into personal info at all, like how much they're wanting to spend, their budget, not even how much they're approved, if they're really starting to get into like, I want to spend 300,000, you need to stop and say, let's go over this document that the real estate commission requires that I go over for your protection. Remember, we're coming from contribution. Don't say I'm required to go over this. This is for your protection.
Yeah, that's very important. So why you and why Keller Williams? So there's a bunch of reasons why Keller Williams and why you know, I think sometimes you do have to sit down and brainstorm. Just so that you can put it, you know, in writing. But after that, after you get it in your notes and get your outline and your book made up, it is a piece of cake. And then you start adding to it like Renee said she does. And you also want to let them know what makes you different. Is it faith? You know, what makes you different than everybody else? Because they might be looking for that same thing. Because like we learned in both, there are a lot of communities we're not tapping into. We're thinking it's just military or, you know, it's just what we see here, Christian, but there's Muslims, there's the Asian community, there's different communities, the Hispanic community, you know.
20-year-old buyers.
Yes, they are new students at Fayetteville State, Fayetteville Tech, that may be able to buy it, they don't know. I work with a lot of single moms. And so, and that's just kind of where my heart is, but you want to tap into those different communities, you know, just to see where you can contribute. Because you do add value there. Expectations. So expectations is big and we talk about it a lot in this presentation, only because it's so important, because it's so easy to get burned out in real estate. It's so easy. I mean, literally, I time block for showings, which I didn't used to, but I time block for showings because I was like, okay, I can show, and dragging my kids around, and my kids are like, and I'm like, you know, we're all in zombie mode. So you really want to set the expectation, hey, these are my hours. I do not defer from these hours. I have appointments, and like our gold coach says, she tells me still now, she's like, Mika, she's like, those are appointments. Lead generation, that's an appointment for you. Don't go show during that time. Don't do anything during that time.
And we're gonna dive into that even more, expectations in just a few minutes.
Yeah. And so, but it's huge because you can get burned out. You want to cover stats because I also do a lot of for sale by owners, and you have people with different personalities. Some people just want to see how quick you can sell a home. I had one guy said, sell. I said, what are your expectations? Sell. Okay. And so I just give him numbers. I'm gonna just give him numbers. You know, because that's what's important to him. So you want to know your stats, you want to know your days on market, even if it's 2 homes sold. I don't care. They don't know. Just give them what you got. Or use Keller Williams stats. How you operate your business. So we all doing business differently. For your dual agent real estate realtors, excuse me. You're gonna want to let them know I can only show from this time because I have another job, and you know, and be transparent. People love that. Like I have a baby. My baby might want to show me, you know, but people don't mind when you're being transparent. So how you operate your business is important. Your professional fee, because what we learned in the panel is people don't like the word commission. So if you change it in your presentation to professional fee, you might not get the objection, but you want to put it in there because we have to disclose it. So that is a topic you should discover. I'm sorry, disclose.
So we're gonna actually dive into each of these things that we said you should be covering or think you should be going over a little bit deeper. So we're gonna start with these expectations. That's why I wanted to like tell you, we're gonna get into this in a little bit.
Yeah, so the first one is going to be business hours, because like I was saying, burnout is real.
How many of y'all have set your business hours?
How many of y'all do calendar? Do you calendar your day, your week, your month? Okay.
When you call my phone, it says, hi, Stacy, you, Keller Williams, all that. My business hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and weekends 5 to 20.
And my email says the same.
Yep,
My email says the same. Family time is on Sunday.
yep.
I don't do it on Sunday if I can avoid it. I will only do it if it is like an emergency. I'm saying there's no emergency in real estate unless the house is on fire. You never saw me. Yeah.
Yeah, don't call me. No, but have y'all thought about that? Have you thought about your hours? You really, really should, because if you don't, what Mika's saying, the burnout, it really will happen. You will find yourself at a point where your family's mad at you, your friends are mad at you, every time they don't invite you anymore to things because every 10 minutes you're taking the phone call. And here's the thing, we get it. When I was a new agent, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to get a closing. I have to take this phone call because I have to get a closing. I have to go show this house right now because, I mean, let's be honest, in 2020 and 2021, if you didn't go show the home right then, you might not get it because it was selling that fast. But this is an important thing for you because even though it's hard to realize it when you're new, because you've only been in it a few months or a few weeks, you're going to keep going. There's gonna be other showings. There's gonna be other buyers. You don't have that long-term view yet to lean on. But those of us that have been in it longer, we have that long-term view. The sky is not going to fall if I write this offer later in an hour, 1 hour, instead of doing it during this time I was supposed to be focusing on my husband or focusing on this doctor appointment.
Yeah, and so she's picking at me. I was writing an offer today in the doctor's office with my 4-year-old get shots. I have my laptop. I'm guilty. I'm still working on this.
We all are still working on it. There's times we cross our own boundaries, okay?
I mean, oh my gosh.
That's bad.
Start again. It's okay. It's okay. Look, well, that's great because in this market right now, I mean, there was literally, I called the agent at like 5:30. Then I submitted the offer at 7:30. Right when I submitted it, hey, did you get my offer, my client's offer? He said, we already accepted an offer. 2 hours, I just talked to you. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was writing in the doctor's office.
So we get the pressure, and are there gonna be times when you do need to cross your own boundaries? Yes, but it needs to be a conscious decision that you're making to do so. Because you've made a covenant with yourself. You're the only one who's gonna take care of yourself.
Exactly.
So in a buyer presentation or a listing presentation, when this is your first chance to set that expectation with this client, hey, while we're talking, I want to go over my business hours. You can reach me 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. If you text after 5, I'll be able to respond till about 7, but after 7, I'm gonna be spending time with my family and I'll get back to you the next day. Does that work for you? So same thing with your showing time frame. Same thing. Let's talk about when showings are gonna take place. Now, showing assistants are really important for you to still have a good customer service, right? Because we're not saying don't have good customer service, but do y'all know what showing assistants are?
Someone else that shows free.
Someone else who shows the property for you.
AKA leverage.
Leverage. So build relationships with other agents in this market center because they're gonna be key. This is one of the reasons Keller Williams is different, guys. We help each other out. So if there's a time when you are supposed to be giving your all to your child and if that showing has to take place because the offer deadline is in 2 hours. Use us, utilize us, we will help you. You don't need to take that time because you only get one chance with your children.
Yeah. So, you want to say the expectation of how many houses we show. Now, if you're under the $200,000 mark right now, it is a hot market, let me just tell you, okay? For those who haven't been in the field yet, because loans are they're lowering, FHA's lowering their fee, VA's lowering their fee, so people are getting approved, like, there's a lot of buyers. So, if you're under the $200,000 mark, multiple offers, 15 showings on one house Sunday. So, she said, we have to pick the top 4 offers just to even choose, because they had so many offers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you kind of want to say, hey, we're not gonna look at 100 houses. I'm gonna get your wish list and, you know, I should be able to show you houses based on your wish list and they should be able to pick from that. Granted, sometimes people get in there and say, Mika, I thought I wanted stairs, but I can't walk up the stairs. So, you know, you might have to change it a little bit, but you do want to set that expectation. Time blocking is really important. If you don't have Google Calendar, I would recommend it because it is a lifesaver. It pops up on your phone, you have an app for it. It'll tell you, you know, this is coming up in 30 minutes. So that really helps with time blocking.
Let's talk a little bit about how you have that conversation. Does having a conversation with your buyer client about, hey, I'm not gonna show you 30 houses, does that make you a little nervous? Yeah? Guess what? My whole first year, I was terrified of that conversation. I didn't have it up front, and I showed one couple 30 houses in a month.
Did they buy anything?
Well, let me tell you how it ended. So showed them 30 houses. Most of them met almost all of their criteria. Now they did put a few offers in and lost a few times. And then after about house 31, it was a house I found for them. And she decided she wanted to place an offer on it. She loved it. And they had been putting in 6,000 and 7,000 in due diligence. And she said, Stacey, I'm going down to 1,000 in due diligence. And I about lost my cookies. And I said, why are we doing that? You haven't won any of the rest of them with 6,000 and 7,000. Why are we doing that? She goes, well, exactly. I haven't won any with that. So why do it? I'm just going down to 1,000. And all of a sudden, the Stacey that should have been in me for the last year came roaring out. And I said, hold on. I said, we're going to talk. I said, do you want to still be doing this in 6 months? Because I don't. I said, if we go in and put this offer in, you're going to lose. And I don't want to do this anymore. How many more times are you going to lose before you actually play the game and win? Oh, and even now, like I'm remembering. And you know what she said? Stacey, you're right. I'm going to do 7,000 in due diligence. I'm going 10,000 over, and I'm doing a $10,000 appraisal gap. And I said, wait, is that easy? Tell them I need to set these expectations now. I could have avoided that conversation possibly if I had set some expectations at the beginning, right? Now you're not dictating their decisions. They're the ones who have to spend their money. So you're not talking to them in a way that's like, well, I ain't doing this for you, right? But you're going to set that expectation. So how do you say it? Well, here's how we say it at Dogwood. Hey, buyer, I just want you to know that if I'm doing my job at a high level, which I know you expect me to do, then I am going to be listening to you so well and choosing homes for you to go look at so well that by the time we've seen 5 to 7, you should like one enough to place an offer on it. Now, if we get to number 7 and you haven't found one, one of those hasn't met your needs to the point where you would want to place an offer, we're gonna need to sit down and talk, because I'm not doing something right, or I haven't understood something correctly. And we're gonna have to have another powwow, okay? So I just want you to know, if we see 15 homes and we haven't found something, I'm not doing my job for you. And they
Right.
love it.
Right, and if they came to the appointment, wherever it may be on God's green earth, 9 times out of 10, they wanna work with you, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's ways to deliver that, so you don't come off as, I'm not gonna show you, but,
Right, we're not
you know,
showing you 10 homes.
yeah. But there's, like she said, there's ways to say that, but their motivation level, and basically where you're at with their motivation level, because some people they come in for the appointment and they're like, Mika, I can't buy, I can't get pre-approved. The next thing you know, they're like, oh, if you ask them 3, are you looking for a house in 3 to 6 months? Or, what's your time frame? And they're like 6 months down the road, next thing you know, they're pre-approved, I'm ready to go. And so you kind of want to gauge their motivation during the appointment. And yes, it changes sometimes, but that's why the buyer appointment is so important, because they may think they can't be pre-approved, but they might be able to. And sometimes people just need to be shown the process.
Yes, and motivation level is so important. So have any of y'all asked your client the question, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to move? Have y'all used that before? Have you heard it before? Okay, that's a really easy way to start the conversation, especially when you're a new agent, because that's going to gauge. Now, we're going to talk in a little bit about asking really powerful questions. That's a powerful question, but the most powerful questions come after that. So let's say someone said, I'm a 10, I'm ready to go. You got to dig a little deeper, because guess what? A lot of people who think they're a 10, when you start digging deeper, they're really more like a 7, a man on a good day. So what kind of questions do you think you could ask to get those expectations out of them? After they said they're a 10.
You got saved.
Okay, we can talk about their money, yeah. If you've talked about working with real estate agents, right? Yeah, you can talk about their money, because guess what? It doesn't matter if they're a 10 with their motivation if they don't have the money. Ready, willing, and able. Have y'all heard that?
No.
Ready, great, you're ready. You're willing, we ain't to the able part yet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. What else? How about, well, what does that mean to you when it comes to being a 10? Or how about, here's what it means to me. For me, if I have a client who's a 10, I'm going to be sending you homes immediately starting today. You're pre-approved for number 1. I'm going to be sending you homes immediately starting today. And I expect that if you like something, we're probably going to be looking at homes the next few days. And by next weekend, we probably hope to place an offer. Or we're going to be working towards that, like you're going to hear from me every day. Are you still a 10? Okay. If they're not a 10, they're going to give you a, oh no, that's not me then. Okay, well, how often are you thinking you'd like to look at homes? Maybe every couple of weeks. Okay, we got some more follow-up questions to go here, okay? Do you see how that starts to go into your next question that you can ask to really get to what their motivation is? Sometimes I'll just, if I'm not getting good feedback, I finally say, you know what? If I were to find the perfect house, and it had everything on it that we talked about today, if I were to find it today, would you place an offer today? That's a telling question too, because if they say, well, I have to do, and then they start listing all these things that they have to do, they're not ready, and that's okay. And you're not going to look at them and go, you're not ready, right? But you're going to use this information to help guide them down the road that they need to go to get ready. And you're not going to spend every day contacting them. Someone who's a 10, you're looking at homes every morning and night on the MLS for them. Someone who's a 7, I'm looking every 2 or 3 days. Because this is what we're talking about, your time management here. This is how listing and buyer presentations help you with time management. You're getting valuable information that helps you know how to serve your clients. So you're not running around searching houses for every single client every single day. Okay?
Yeah, so, for sellers, you want to go over the timeline, because if they had tenants in the house and they want top dollar. There's work that has to be done. If you want top dollar, you're gonna have to put some work into this home. Paint goes a long way, and, a nice fresh carpet cleaning. Cause there's nothing worse than going in a stinky house. So there is a timeline that you do want to give your sellers. That is a big expectation, because especially like she was saying, if they're 10 and they're saying, I'm ready to go, but you have things to do to your home. Well, we're gonna have to follow this timeline, because we have to schedule pictures. I mean, they can't be here tomorrow. They might have other pictures to do, you know? So those type things, you do wanna set that expectation for the sellers to get their house on the market, especially if they want top dollar. Now, if they want to sell it as is, then fine, just let them know the way the market is. As is, you might not get that price you're looking for, but that's when you step in and be the professional and, yeah.
Can I interject for a second?
Mhm.
So in this phase, what she's talking about is where a pre-market inspection all but guarantees top dollar for that seller agent. During a pre-market inspection, a licensed home inspector comes into the house and essentially gives them a top to bottom punch list of every single defect and every single thing that could potentially come out of a buyer's inspection. Now, you know, I mean, because we're not in 2020, 2021 anymore, where people were just waiting inspections, buying houses, sight unseen, and all that other stuff. We're not there anymore. People are asking for repairs. People are asking for contingencies and things like that.
Yeah.
And they're
They're
getting them,
Yeah.
right? So with a pre-market inspection, what that does is it positions your seller client to stay in the driver's seat throughout the entire transaction. They've shown their due diligence that they're going to figure out what's wrong with the house. They can either make repairs based off of the report, or they can choose not to, and you as the agent can sit with the client and properly price the house. You can market the house properly. What does as is mean?
Yeah.
Well, here's the list of what as is means. These are the things we know that are wrong with the house because we did our due diligence and had it inspected prior to putting it on the market. So food for thought.
And less fall through, less
Absolutely.
contracts falling through because you've done it upfront.
I've seen a number of occasions where buyers are more than happy to waive the inspection because the pre-market inspection was very thorough. And then the seller client actually saved all their receipts and invoices and put them in the same binder with the home inspection report to show all the things that they had repaired by licensed professionals and so on and so forth, to the extent that the buyers were like, well, that's good enough for me, let's go.
Yeah, and then you can call Paul for your buyer presentation, because this could just be an easy, like, say for instance, you go somewhere and you can just get it made up, where it's just a slide in your presentation. If you already have a presentation made up, you know, you just like a little brochure, just slide it in there. You know what I mean? Just to give them that option, the sellers the option. So that will be so much value to your sellers.
And we already have those infographics ready to go. We can provide those to you at no cost for your presentations.
So there you go. He already has them ready. So, you know, I would suggest that would add to your presentation. So to just add that in there, and then, you know, add that in your presentation for your sellers. That might set you apart from other realtors if they're interviewing more people, because they do interview more than one person. Do we have any more on this slide?
Okay, so expectations are so important, setting expectations, but we have 2 slides on this. So what are some more things? We have the market. Someone talked about that. We want to let them know what's going on in the market, and whether you actually put it in your presentation or not depends on how many times a year you're planning to print those. If you're printing a new one each time you go, because you're printing it from your computer, like at Dogwood, we used to do that, and we actually had one of the spiral binding machines that we allowed us to still make it look nice, right? You can update market stuff like that if you're doing that each time. Now, if you go for more what we do now, and you have ones professionally printed, well, I don't have the ability to change stuff. So we actually don't have current market conditions in here, but we do go over it at a very specific point in the presentation.
Well, for me, I go over on the phone.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
So a lot of times that's the deciding factor of getting the appointment.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, when you show that you're knowledgeable there, and Mika works with a lot of for sale by owners. So she goes into market information on the phone because she's helping them understand how the market is right now and why, you know, they may need her.
all my sellers have been for sale by owners.
Yep,
All of them.
she's very good at what she does. So yeah, market. So what are we covering? We're covering, you know, the prices of homes. What is the average price in our area? What's the days on market right now? What are we seeing? The MLS, the matrix, it will tell you. So if you didn't take Kate's MLS and matrix class, I think she recorded it.
She did.
Okay.
She did.
She did.
That's why I
Okay,
reminded you.
well, that's right. That's right, because she posted, she's gonna have to do another one. Okay, so she's gonna do another one. Make sure you go and learn how to pull those reports, pull those stats, especially when you're new because you don't have your own stats. You want to be able to tell people, hey, the regional area's days on market is 20, but Keller Williams is only 10. We're selling homes twice as fast. I don't know that that's the numbers. I didn't look them up. So don't quote me on that. But you want to share that. Days on market's really important. Cash required. If you're meeting with a buyer, you know, you want to let them know up front before you go getting under contract and seeing 30 homes. Hey, it's going to take this much. This is an average amount in closing costs. This is, if you have to go over and do an appraisal gap addendum, which you don't have to overwhelm them with what all that is, but this is going to take this much cash possibly. And, you know, if you're doing a down payment, you're going to have about this much cash for the cost point. They need to know, because there's been times when I would say 3 out of 10 appointments when I get to that point and they say, I tell them how much cash they're looking at needing. They go ahead and stop me and let me know they don't have it. That is very valuable to you, because then you don't waste your time and they don't get in a position where they're under contract. They've given 2,000 or 3,000 in due diligence, but then they don't have what they need to close. I had a client terminate last summer because she had her money for closing when we first talked, because I do have this conversation. And then Rebecca's on her head because she was my showing assistant for this client. So she knows the story, but she had 10,000 set aside. It took us a while to find her a place. I didn't continue to have that conversation. I knew it was taking a while. I knew it had been 4 months since I first asked her how much money she had. I just didn't think she would spend it. We didn't find out till a week or two before closing. It had been a while. She had spent the 10,000. She couldn't close. She had to terminate. She lost her due diligence. These are important conversations. Have it up front, and then if it takes a while, continue to have it.
Well, I don't have mine at the buyer presentation. Like I said, I do a lot of first-time home buyers, single moms. So I don't overwhelm them in the buyer appointment. I show them the process, and everyone does business differently.
True.
We say the same thing in our presentation. However, after the presentation, you kind of got to gauge where they are. If they have a pre-approval, I go ahead and give them the information. If
That's
they
true.
don't, if they don't have the pre-approval, I wait till they get the pre-approval. My preferred lender goes over it with them. And then I go over it again. And they'll say, yeah, the lender went over it with me. Well, I'm just double checking, and I put them in a 3-way message with the lender. And I said, hey, remember in our buyer presentation, I said communication is big for me. You're going to be in a 3-way conversation with me and the lender, so everyone's on the same page.
Right.
So set those expectations.
No, that's a good point. And I think for the most part, we're assuming these are presentations. Like for the most part, we're going over this as if you're with a qualified buyer who's been pre-approved. But Mika's right. If I'm having an appointment with someone who's a buyer in particular who's not pre-approved yet, it may be a little different. I had one today. He knows he's not going to be pre-approved for quite a while. I shortened things for him, and we didn't go through every single thing, because you do have to gauge where your clients are. And that's a skill you'll develop over time. Repairs required. I think you already went over this point beautifully. I don't really have to do this, but you need to be telling them. Right now, we're seeing that It is taking, a new paint job when your walls look like this. There was a time in 2020 and 21 where I literally could look at sellers and say, you can sell it for a really great price and not have to do any of the stuff you were about to do. Okay, we're not in that market now, as he said, but go over that. What are we seeing in the market? They don't know, you're the expert. All right, communication is important. How are you communicating with them? How do they want to be communicated with? Do they prefer a group text with their spouse, or does their spouse not want to be on it and be bothered? Do they prefer email? Do they prefer phone calls? Does one spouse like to be called and one like to be texted? I have one like that right now. Okay. Also, how often are they going to get communicated with? When are you planning to let them know? If it's a seller in a market where things aren't selling in 2 days, how often are you going to touch base with them and let them know, this is what the showings have been like, this is feedback. And everybody's different. There's not a right or wrong answer to that. So someone in here may say, well, I'm only calling my sellers every Friday, once a week. Other people might say, I prefer to call twice a week. Other people might say, I want to call them every day. I want to know that everything is okay. I don't know anyone like that. So there's not a right or wrong thing. The point is you've got to talk about it though, because you should end every interaction with your clients, starting here in this presentation, with what to expect next. And that includes the next time you're planning to communicate with them. We also go over the other types of communications that they're going to receive during this part. So you're going to be getting, when your house goes on the market, you're going to get notifications through text of the showings. You're going to get emails with any feedback. You're going to get, I go over all the types of communication they're going to get, so they're prepared. Okay, we also talk to them about who else they can expect to deal with during this transaction. I mentioned Rika earlier, right? We go ahead and talk about her. She's on the back of our book. Here's Rika. I turn it to the back. Here's Rika. She's an important part of your process. She's a licensed agent, and she's going to be working with you from contract to close. Here's the things she's going to be doing for you. When we get to this point, she's your first point of contact. I'm still your agent, but she's handling most things, so call her first. Why is that important, do you think? Letting them know who all that they might be working with.
There's no surprise, so they're not just ignoring that message or call.
Okay, so they could ignore the messages or calls.
Well, not ignore it. I mean, because if not, some people screen their calls, they're not like, I don't know who that was.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, but if you should be expecting a call from such and such, this phone number, to answer it, respond and reply.
That's so true. And we still, even though we prepared them that single source is going to be texting them, they still call us. What's this text from? It's something called single source. I'm like, we went over that. But you're right, people do. They screen their calls. What else? What other reasons can you think of for me letting them know?
What's to make sure that you're not ignoring them, you're not dropping the ball. It's to make sure that you still are there for them.
Mhm.
It's just an extension of your care.
Yeah.
And that somebody else is coming on.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, because in marketing, when I was in marketing, I had one boss that I worked for who she did not understand. She never wanted to say anything in marketing that someone else in the company might not think is true. And I said, look, you have to tell people what to think through marketing about your product, about your service. What Kellogg's, if they put up commercials like, we hope you like our cereal. We've heard some of you say you like our cereal. Like, that's not marketing, right? You have to shape how people view their experience with you. This is why I talk about Rika up front, because if I don't, exactly what she said is going to happen. They're going to think I've dropped the ball. They're going to think I'm ignoring them. They're going to think I've handed them off. They may see it as, oh, you've handed me off. Now that we're under contract and you're going to get changed, you've handed me off. I don't want them to think any of those things, right? So I have to set the tone for that. I have to communicate about that up front. Now, if you're new, you may not have anyone to communicate about it. Maybe you do, and that's fine. But once you get to a point where you're using leverage, you definitely want to communicate that. And then this last part up here, you do not control of the others who are involved, and there's a lot of people involved in a transaction. We've got our home inspectors, we've got our appraisers, which have a lot of power. We've got our lenders, we've got our attorneys. There's probably 20-something people who touch this person's file. Are you in control of any of them? No. So one of the expectations that I've really honed in on lately is helping them understand we're all a team. We're all working together to get them to closing. However, I am not in charge of them, but we're all going to work together to handle any hiccups that come up. And guess what? With 20 people touching something, there's probably going to be a hiccup. But don't fear, we'll talk through it and we'll figure out a solution. Then when a hiccup happens, Stacy told me this was going to happen. Stacy said it's going to be okay. All right, so let's go into stats a little bit more. I don't want to cover this too much because I think Mika has already kind of covered it and we covered it here, but what kind of stats should you have in your presentation? Sellers, you want days on market, list to sell price ratio. We talked about days on market. Have y'all heard about list to sell price ratio? Who can tell me what that is? Anyone? Guess? Have a guess from what just the name is?
What was it again?
List to sell price ratio.
Like what it was listed at and what it actually sold for.
Amen, sister. That's right. List to sell price ratio is what you listed it for, what it actually sold for. If you list a home at $100,000 and it sells at $100,000, you have 100% list to sell price ratio. Seller's pretty happy, right? Now, if I list a home at $100,000 and it sells for $50,000, seller not happy. Seller says that's a 50% sales list to sell price ratio. So you want to know your numbers, and until you get your own numbers, use Keller Williams. Reach out to Shelby, reach out to the market center. You had your hand. Did you have a question? No. Okay. So that's a really good one to know. Buyers, you can share how long it takes you normally to get buyers in a house. Your firm stats, average sales prices in the area. And then how long have you been in real estate? And I'm going to actually hand this part over to Mika because this can be an uncomfortable conversation. She knows how to handle it really well. So talk about that part, Mika.
Yeah, for us new agents, I'm only with Keller Williams for about a year, but this question comes up. So it is basically an objection so that they have a reason not to use you. So when you get asked this question, you just want to let them know, hey, I've been in real estate, and I say I've been in real estate a little over a year. And these are my stats. I give numbers quick. And I know my numbers because whenever they ask this question, they want to know, do you know how to do your job? Because it can be very offensive, like, I don't know if you guys take it offensively, but I had someone ask me this question, and then guess what? They sent me their pre-approval, they asked me this question, and an hour later, they said, we're using another realtor. So you want to know your numbers, you want to know your stats, you want to be able to overcome this objection, because it is something that you might see in the field. And you want to give them basically that they can trust you and that you know what your job is. Hey, North Carolina wouldn't have gave me my license if I didn't know my job. So you want to be able to overcome those objections. So think about objections, because I have a tool belt now because I have gotten so many
Objections.
objections. Yeah,
Don't be afraid of objections because then you learn how to handle them.
exactly.
And when it comes to this, you have Keller Williams behind you. You are not, yes, you individually are a new agent, but Keller Williams is not a new firm. You have a whole team of professionals behind you. Hundreds of years, if you put it all together, of real estate experience. Use that. Help them understand that.
Another thing to use, like if you're in your first year, you haven't hit your anniversary, you can say I'm in my first year. Once you hit that anniversary, I'm in my second year, just round, like go to the next.
Yes, that's
And,
true.
Yeah, so,
I always had something funny to say.
yeah,
When somebody said, I mean, I had that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I was in my first year, and I always looked at them and I'm like, they say, how long have you been in real estate? And I would say, long enough to get you this house. Do you have any questions? And I never answered them. And they're like, oh.
It breaks down the barrier.
It does, and mine came from a person I've known for years, like years.
And the one who you knew for years, then used another agent?
Yeah, they used another agent. But because I was nervous, because I already knew her for so long, you know? So I was like, she's in a pre-approval letter, we get together. Then she's like, my husband's copy you, boop, put him on the phone. And I was like, okay, and he was like, hey, how long have you been in real estate? And I'm like, well, I've been in a little over a year now. I didn't actually think it through. I wasn't expecting this. Was long, yeah, and I did never think I was gonna go with another agent. We get another call back, and I already have a pre-approval letter. Guess what? I'm handling the seller side of this too. It is over $500,000. So yes, I want both sides. But it didn't work out, you know what I mean? But now it's maybe a better agent. So things to look for or look out for and be able to overcome, because you might run into it. And to have both sides over $500,000 list price, if you list the house at that price, you want both sides. So for time, we're gonna go ahead and move on. So how to operate your business, and we all operate business differently. Even though we can stay together on the same team, I still run mine a little different. So you might have a flow chart for your buyer. You can have any kind of charts in there in your presentation for your buyers or your sellers. But people are visual, they do like to see charts, they do like to see numbers, especially sellers. Seller wants numbers. They want to know how fast you're selling. They want to know days on market. If you're coming for sell by owner and their house has been on the market 55 days, you want to know days on market for Fayetteville or their neighborhood, because for them that's big, and they want to know, you know, what you're selling and how fast and all that good stuff. So flow charts, seller charts, and include other people who are touching the files, lenders, vendors, transaction coordinators. Include all these people in your presentation and put their picture on there. Ask the lenders. They might contribute, they might make it for you. So definitely ask lenders, ask vendors and different things like that. But you do want those people in there in your presentations. Your cost and how much you charge. Now, we're doing business as we want to, and you charge what you want to charge. But there are over 200 agents in Keller Williams, right? So just think about that, because your price affects other agents, especially if that person has never worked with a realtor, or if they don't really want to use a realtor at all anyway, because they're going to expect other realtors to do the same thing. So you can charge whatever you want to charge, but I just throw that out there. I had one realtor said she charges 1% if you bring the buyer. How do you get paid? I said, that affects me.
Yeah,
1%. So I was just, just think about those things. It's just food for thought. So how do you create a presentation? There are a plethora of different ways to create a presentation. There's Canva. There is KW Designs. There, like we said, there are lenders who actually they'll email you. But you're gonna want to make sure you have those in your list. And if you want to leave in your email, we can send this information to you, because we do believe in sharing the information.
I want to show you guys really quickly. This is a list. There's templates is what I want to show you. How many of y'all have gone into Command Designs yet? Okay. So right here, it's slow. Who said it's slow? Sorry. It can be. They're working on it, all right? Okay, so here's how you get to it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, so pay attention. You are in Command. Down this left side, you have these icons. You've got right here, Designs, okay? And when you go into that, you can actually type in Well, it does come up. I don't know what's going on with it.
It really does.
It's slow, that's what it is. Anyway, there are definitely listing and buyer presentations in here, okay? But that's how you get to it. Go down here and go to designs. And then we also have at our disposal Canva. You can have a free login here, and you can actually type real estate in, right? Look, listing presentation. Listing presentations. You can find it in Canva too. Okay? So there's lots of tools that already have it created. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just add what you want to make yours special.
Stacy, I'm gonna add, y'all might want to shoot me. Etsy has a lot of presentation in their Canva, and you can, you know, personalize them, and they're not expensive.
They're really not, and they also have whole open house packages too. Etsy has a lot of real estate resources. So if you want like anything like listing presentation, open house packages, go to Etsy for like $8. You download it and you open up in Canva and just change it, you know. I don't want to start from the beginning. How do I start from here?
That just can be a whole class within itself.
I know. Sorry, guys, I don't know how to go all the way, start from a different. That's okay, we can just. Yeah, we can keep going. All right, so.
So next step, best practices.
All right, so best practices. Here. Yeah, can we keep going? All right. So we're gonna just go through best practices. We touched on a lot of them, but just to kind of recap and close all this down, what are your best practices for printed presentation? You want to be concise and simple, not too wordy, okay? When you think you finished writing something, go back and edit it down again. You think it's done, edit it down again. How simple can you get it? How few words can you get it? White space is your friend. When we were designing this one, the other agent on our team and I, you wanted to fill up every single space with something. And I said, no, white space. So now he calls me white space. It's got to breathe, right? Your eyes can't digest it. And you want it to look professional. So white space is your friend. Don't fill every single spot. Be careful about copyrights on photos, you know, make sure you're using things that you have permission to use. I have to say that. Go the extra mile in printing and binding. So I could print like this and just take this and go over it with someone, but it looks so much better if you'll invest, you know, $20, $30, $40 in a binding machine or some type of presentation, way to present this in a professional manner. Again, lenders can help cover costs of printing. Make sure you have clear branding. Whose listing presentation is this? Yeah, it's out there, right? Like you're not surprised or wondering who this is. This is us. Make sure you're branding yourself. Don't forget the Keller Williams logo or Keller Williams in some shape or form. Follow the guidelines that are online, okay? Vary your content. Don't just use text, okay? People, do you get bored reading just text? Well, guess what? So do buyers. Even though this is something they want to do, they still get bored. We've got, in ours, we've got pictures. We've got boxes around things to help draw the eyes in. We've got big numbers. Text in itself can actually turn into a graphic if you do it right, right? We've actually got a timeline here. We've got all of our graphs right here with how many sellers and buyers we work with each year. Vary it up a little bit. Give them something that helps them, their eyes not get tired. Have multiple people proofread and give feedback. Don't be afraid of the feedback. It's for your own good, okay? And then practice, practice, practice. If I don't know this like the back of my hand, and I've got it in front of my buyer, you're my buyer, okay? I've got it in front of my buyer, she's looking at it. I can't keep doing this. Hold on, let me find, okay. No, wait, can't be doing that, right? So know your presentation, know where everything is. I can look at this upside down and just talk exactly what I need to talk about. All right, next we have best practices for interacting with your clients. Or again, the first one on this list is be concise and simple, not too wordy. Ask powerful questions. We talked about that. Avoid yes or no questions, because guess what they're going to give you if you ask those? Does that tell you hardly anything? Get really good at rephrasing questions in your mind before you say them, so that you're not getting just that yes or no. All right, this is really important. Listen with your eyes, your mouth, your body language, in addition to your ears. How do you listen with your eyes? Eye contact, exactly. How do you listen with your mouth?
Shut up.
Keep it shut, right? I had a video I was gonna share. It's really funny, but we don't really have time unless you guys give me the go ahead. But there's a video where this guy is talking and the guy who's supposed to be listening going, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, He thinks he's validating. What does the person speaking think?
Be not listening.
Not listening, right? So listen with your mouth, shut it. Okay, your body language. How do you listen with your body language?
Upright, not slouching, not turned away from the speaker.
Amen. Yes, all those things. People pick up on body language when they're not even aware they're picking up on it. And it might influence how they think, you know, you're feeling about them. And you're feeling fine, you're just worried about your kid getting off the bus. But your body language is saying, I'm not into you. Got it? Give them your full attention. Enough said, we don't even have to explain that one. Words matter. This is a Trentonism. Y'all know Trenton on our team? Okay. He says this all the time. This is his favorite phrase. Words matter. If I say something to you, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, like, I ain't showing you 10 homes. I said the same thing, right? But the way I say it really, really matters. And I had another video I was gonna show you, but I'll send you the link so y'all can have fun laughing like I did today. You want to also match their rate of speech and body language. So have y'all heard that before? So if someone comes in, now I'm going to give you the Chick-fil-A training way that we used to be trained, okay? As a cashier, we had this matching system where we assess the person on a scale of 1 to 10. Where's their mood today? And whatever we assessed that they were on, we match their mood, but go 1 or 2 steps higher than them, okay? So if someone comes in and they're very serious and they're talking pretty fast, am I gonna take the time to be a 10 if I'm assessing they're about a 4 because of how serious they are? I'm not gonna be a 10 like, hey, that's gonna annoy them. They're in a hurry. I'm assessing how they are right at that moment. I'm gonna match them. Now, if someone comes in a 1 into your buyer appointment, do I want you to be a 2 though?
No.
No, you still have to stay true to yourself, but matching is a really powerful tool to help the person feel understood. Another thing y'all should really do when they offer it again is take a class on the DISC personality profile. We use it a lot in Keller Williams, DISC. You should take the DISC personality profile first of all, but these classes actually will teach you how to determine what a person is on that. Are they a D, an I, an S, or a C? And based on what they are, you change how you present to them. You match them and how they want things done. Find common ground. This is something we all kind of learned how to do pretty early on. Find common ground, but don't overdo it. You have to be really careful here. If I'm sitting with someone who doesn't know me, the first time we're meeting in a buyer presentation, if everything they tell me about themselves, I went to Italy last year, I have 2 kids, if everything they tell me, I go, me too. What does that feel like?
What you trying to do?
That's what
Yes. Yes, and we can take some of these things that are meant to be good, and because of our nerves, or we just haven't done it enough, we're not aware, we start overdoing it. So just, I don't want this to overwhelm you guys, but basically what I'm saying is, okay, keep going. Keep going. Practice. That's what I wanted to get to. Practice on your dad, practice on your, Mika, you practiced on your 3-year-old.
My 4-year-old, he asked a lot of questions.
Practice on people around you first so that you get better at these things before you're in front of an actual client. The two that we skipped, show empathy and maintain professionalism. Show empathy, but maintain professionalism about it. They're professional. They're coming to us for professional service. Yes, we want to have empathy, but we also want to be careful about how much into their life gossip we get. Okay, be careful. Don't cross that line too much. Now, after you close, you can be best friends, but be their friends in a professional way. Say the same thing each time. Adjust a personality. We talked about that already. Best practice. Say the same thing every time. All right. So that's our information that we have for you tonight. Do we have time to do this, or do y'all want to take a picture of this and do it at home on your own? Yeah?
Yeah, so you guys feel free to do whatever it is that you would like to do. We're just gonna wrap up. And if you want to stay and start working on it, you can. If you want to do it at home, you can. But I would encourage you to have presentations to take with you on your appointment.
Could you email that out?
Yeah, we can email this whole presentation to you guys.
Yes, if you give me your email before you go, then we can email it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I do something before you let everybody go?
Yeah.
Real quick. So one of the things that we provide at Pillar to Post is we really want to make sure that we're a resource to our agent partners. And Stacy will probably laugh because she's heard me say this 1,000 times. I have no interest in being a vendor. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, a vendor is where you go get a Coke and a hot dog at a baseball game. That's what a vendor is. I'm a business too. My goal in every process that I have, every system that I have, and every product that I provide to our mutual clients is designed to make their experience better, to make your reputation continue to be as high as it was the day you set these appointments with them. Okay. So that being said, I want to be a resource to you. I have tons of agents that will just call me and be like, Paul, I was in Puerto Rico at our brand conference back in January, and I had 3 different agents text me pictures of like cracks in walls and be like, hey man, is this a big deal or what do I do? So that being said, I want to be that resource. So what I would ask everybody to do real quick, this is kind of fun because it's all technology and nerdy. Grab your phones. I want you to text the number 88500. So just open up a blank text message. The number you're sending it to is 88500. It really works. Everybody does that. All right, so 88500, and then in the message part, I want you to put PTPHD and then send it. Yep, PTPHG, Pillar to Post Group. PTPHG and send it. So what that's going to do is it's going to give you direct access to all of my methods of communication, email, phone numbers, my personal cell phone number, like this phone right here. All right. So
I was slow.
Say it again, post for the people in here in Zoom.
88500.
Text.
You're texting 88500.
885.
That's who you're sending it to. And then in the comment block of the text message, you want to put PTPHG for Pillar to Post Holt Group.
Give me that again, Paul. I'm sorry.
That's it.
PTPHD.
All right, I'm gonna just go.
3 P's?
All of
PTPHG. Okay, got it.
Pillar to Post Holt Group.
For the people in Zoom land.
Yep, someone put it on caps.
Oh, it's only.
All
Yep,
caps.
all like that. So what that'll do is it'll take you to my digital business card. It has all of my contact information, all of our, if you get into social media, I've got a lot of resource materials and like TikTok, Instagram, things like that. For you to be able to share with your clients.
That's awesome.
But beyond that, like I said, the goal is to be a resource to you.
Thank
How
you.
far do you go out for your free?
Did you guys get any value from this class?
Yes.
Okay,
Any ahas, any shout out for that? Biggest aha that you're gonna take.
Each of the comments.
Anybody have any takeaways?
Practice more. Oh, yeah. Practice.
And make sure you get that working with real estate disclosure at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. It really sets you apart from other agents. We hear it a lot.
So I have a question about just gonna be a topic about the working with real estate disclosure. So we are, when we're like, for example, doing open house for selling units, we are dual agent, designated agent and buyer agent, right?
You're actually working for the sellers when you're doing, if it's a Keller Williams listing. Yeah.
So you're a seller agent.
Because the firm represents the buyer or the seller, the firm represents the seller and you work for Keller Williams.
You're a sub agent.
And how about like if somebody comes to the open house and he says, oh, beautiful house, can you write an offer for it? Who are you working for?
Well,
You're still working for that. Still.
so until you have an agency agreement with that new buyer, you're still a sub agent of the seller. So that's why you really have to go over that working with real estate agents form, so they understand. Here's what I tell people. I said, this form helps me explain to you the type of relationship you could have based on the house you're buying. If it's a house listed by Keller Williams, we're gonna be dual agent. If it's a house listed by someone at a different firm, it's not dual agency, it's just regular buyer agency. So that's how I let them know, here's what we're about to discuss. The different types of relationships you could have with me.
And you want to make sure they know the firm represents the seller in this transaction. Or if you have, if you say, for instance, you have the buyer, the firm represents the buyer in this transaction. We're not worried about the seller unless the firm has both sides. And then you explain dual agency to them. The firm represents both sides.
Yeah.
And then the difference of, what the difference looks like. You want to keep everything confidential and separate. We have over 200 agents in Keller Williams.
Yeah.
You're gonna run into one of those houses out there.
Yeah.
Maureen, pretty much, if you look at the hot sheet,
Yeah.
Maureen is all over it. So somebody you're gonna run into with Keller Williams is gonna have the seller side, if you have the buyer, 9 times out of 10, because we have over 200 agents.
We have a lot of market share. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't explain the working with real estate agents disclosure right, and they choose not to sign that they're going to allow dual agency because they're scared, then you just knocked out 25% of the homes listed.
And there's not many homes listed right now.
No, so you really want them to feel comfortable. You want to explain it in a way that they aren't scared of this. Because they're gonna want to see a home listed by a Keller Williams agent, and if you haven't explained it well, you're gonna have to say, I can't show you that because you chose not to do dual agent.
And then you refer them out. Question about your pretty presentation package. Do you guys give that to your buyer and seller, or is that something they look at and then you guys take that?
No, they get to take this home with them.
They keep it.
Yeah, they get to keep it. So what I do is, we do have them sign this, but part of this is actually they're supposed to have a copy. So I have a scanner on my phone and I scan
Okay.
and send it to their .luke file and.
Yeah, all your, when you do, your compliance, they're gonna want it. They want it. So you gotta have it.
You can get paid.
You gotta have compliance met, because Doug he's checking.
Yeah.
And then
Checking
who
every
is
month.
your vendor to strike those?
I'm sorry.
Who's the vendor to strike those?
Oh, this is actually printed at,
Is it international?
International, thank you, International Minute Press prints ours. Yep. Unfortunately, I cannot pass it around, but basically, we took this and made sure that everything we go over and have was in our presentation tonight, so.
Yeah.
And then, I'm asking all the questions.
It's okay.
Okay, so I saw that you guys put the stats on there for each year, so do you guys update every year to have the new stats?
Yeah, so we're really big on transparency. So this was printed, this is not the new one, but this was printed last year, so we have every listing we sold in 2021.
Okay.
We have the list price, the sales price, the days on market, because talk is cheap. Anyone can tell you they can sell a house fast. We want to provide the data that shows you that we can.
And people like confident people. People like confident realtors. So when you know your numbers and you can go in there and tell your numbers, or you on the phone trying to win an appointment over other agents, I had one for sub by owner said I wouldn't let anybody else come see my house, not another realtor. So, but I told him stats.
Yeah.
So I told him my numbers. So it is important to know.
Does anyone know that the average number of houses on average real estate agents sell a year? 7. 7. How many of y'all want to sell more than 7 houses a year? So here's the thing, when you think you're out there competing against thousands of agents, you're not. There's people who don't know how to do their craft. They're only selling 7 or less a year. You can be one of the ones that if you work at it, you know your craft and you can be better than the average. Don't be in. No one in here wants to be average. So there's other agents out there. They ain't doing what we're doing.
All right, guys, we're gonna end it there. Thank you all for coming. If you have questions, just see us. If you see us in the hallway, ask us. We're always doing script and objections. Every other Wednesday when there's no team meeting.
Yep, in Dogwood, over here.
Yeah, that's
What
how,
time?
9:15. So if you can make it, I know some of you guys are dual agents, but you can come over and we can role play.
Yes.
And I wanted to take you up on that, going.
Yeah.